My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Plane. That's the entire title. Just Plane. Apparently, the studio wanted to call this movie Mayday, but Gerard Butler's just like, no, it has to be just Plane. So I love the fact he's passionate over the very simple title for this movie, but that said, it's very inaccurate. I didn't know anything about this movie going into it. All I knew it was a Gerard Butler action movie on a plane, except it's not really on a plane. There's a plane in it, but I don't think this simple title fits this movie at all. I feel like people are going to go in with different expectations, but whatever. This is a terrible action movie. I absolutely hated it. But let's begin talking about what I liked. And I think the cast does a perfectly fine job considering the material they have to work with. Gerard Butler is an actor I like, but I don't like most of his movies. I love the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy. I liked Olympus Has Fallen. I liked Greenland. I think that's it. Am I missing one? I think that's it. Like, the guy's got charm, he's got charisma, but he just picks bad movies. And unfortunately, this movie is no different. I think he carries this movie well enough. When he's making jokes at the beginning, I thought he did a good job with that. But he really has zero character. You've got Mike Corto, who played Luke Cage in the Netflix TV show, and I think he does a fine job here. He's not bad, he just has nothing to work with. I get what they're going for with his character, but it's just written in a very sloppy manner. You've got Lawson Ann, who I think is fine considering the material he has to work with, seeing a pattern. Then you've got Tony Goodwin, who I actually think gives the best performance. It's very over the top. It's very overly dramatic, but that's what allows it to stand out for me. He just treats everything like it's 130% serious, and I love that. Then you've got Kelly Gale, who plays the daughter in this movie, and she's bad, and I'm just going to say it, this is one of the worst written characters I've seen in a while. Like, obviously they wanted her to be the emotional foundation of this movie so that we care about what happens to the main character. But she feels like such an afterthought. We don't see the two characters once, not at the beginning or end of this movie. They're on the cell phone together at the start, and then at the end of the movie, well, I don't want to give it away, but let's just say there's not an in-person reunion, and it's just not the same when it's over the phone. It's just like, oh, that's the big emotional finale? Really? Okay. And then there's one scene, whatever. Gerard Butler makes contact with her, and then he gets attacked, so the phone call ends, and we just don't see what happened on the other side of her. You know, not a scene when she's just like, Dad? Dad? He's gone. Like, not even a small scene like that. They just put zero effort in this character. So, just absolutely terribly handled character. And then the overall writing is bad. Like, the sequence of events and the overall pacing of this movie is just completely off. Like, there's a section of this movie where some people get kidnapped. And you're like, okay, so the big last act climax is them getting rescued. And no, they get rescued in like 5 minutes. And then you're like, okay, the rescue team comes to the island. Okay, they're setting it up for a good finale, and nope, the movie's still going. And then there's a scene where Gerard Butler is willing to sacrifice himself, and then that ends up being completely irrelevant. And it just felt off the entire time. It's like they tried as hard as possible to make every wrong decision story-wise. They have no sense of escalation or how to build or payoff or just anything in this movie. It's a sloppy disaster. And without giving too much away, there was one moment near the end of the movie where they have to get to a location, and then it takes them like 1 minute to get there, and I'm just like, what? That's it? Like, the fact that a big part of this movie is that the characters are stranded, you just immediately downplayed that. Like, just, it completely took me out of it. I also feel like there wasn't enough passengers. You know, it just feels like a small crowd. If the plane was filled and there was more lives at stake, I feel like that would have added something to this movie, but I just didn't feel any stakes. There was no tension, but does it deliver on being a fun action movie? And the answer is absolutely not. This movie's directed by Jean-François, and it's just it is terribly directed. The camera is shaking non-stop like it's the first 5 minutes of the Hunger Games. The editing is awful, and when they're on the actual plane, the lights go out. And I understand that now it's dark, and movies can do that where you can still see what's going on, but I couldn't see a thing. So this movie's just awful. You know, I really like Gerard Butler's previous movie, Greenland, which was a disaster movie, but this movie is just a disaster. It's not good, it's just plain bad, so I'm going to go ahead and give Plain a 2 out of 10. You know what really annoys me too? Is that I was actually going to see Babylon for the third time tonight, but then I decided to see this movie instead, and I really wish I saw Babylon instead, or even Avatar for the fourth time. Those two movies are just phenomenal. I should have done that. But did you see Plane? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon. And Gavin, out.